Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session, our second session looking at Arden of Faversham, the true and lamentable tragedy thereof, I think. I'm not looking at my notes, so that's just off the top of my head from yesterday. We are 2 scenes in, which doesn't sound very impressive, but scene 1 went on for ages. It was made up of so many different intersecting units of action that it was an adventure in its own right. But we are now going from scene 3 all the way to scene 10 as the number of scenes that we have available increases by an order of magnitude. So without further ado, we're going to dive into Arden of Faversham. If you want to know the story so far, Arden's wife wants to murder Arden. That's basically where we are. Lots of people have been commissioned for that murder, and they're getting involved in that, and it's all going to be super fun. Reading the text today, reading Arden today is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm an actor currently based in Germany.
Reading Will today is...
I'm Lois. I'm a retired academic in London.
Reading Shakebag today is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
Reading Mosbie today is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I live in the Northwest United States.
And a late switch around, reading Greene today is...
Rachael Nicole, actor in New Jersey.
Reading Alice and Prentice today is...
Aliki, Chapple, actor, translator, Lancaster, Lancashire, England.
Reading Michael today is...
Retired academic, also of Lancaster, Lancashire, England, the world, the universe, etc.
And we just slightly lost your name there, but so I can affirm that it was Stephen Longstaffe if it didn't quite carry across. The rest did, but I didn't hear the actual name being said. Other names are available. Reading Franklin today is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm always confused when we do the second session of a first look session, which is like, too much.
Yeah, I like to create unnecessarily complicated layers of admin. And reading Cheyne, Clarke and Bradshaw today is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good, and I'm in Yorkshire.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions, and more importantly, because it's our birthday today, I'm going to be eating cake. I would offer it round the room, but weirdly, it doesn't seem to work. So I'll just eat this for you, because we've been doing these Zoom sessions online now for almost exactly a year. Our first one was an evening session on the 23rd of last year, and yes, we've been trapped in Zoom. We've been trapped in this invisible box for a year and counting. So it's a time for me to just gorge my face in front of you for a cheap laugh. That's basically what I'm going to be doing here. There's no other celebration going on. We're just going to crack on and continue with the play. So without further ado, we're going to dive into scene 3 and enter Michael.
I have gotten such a letter as will touch the painter. Thus it is.
Here enters Arden and Franklin, and hears Michael read this letter.
My duty remembered, Mistress Susan, hoping in God you be in good health, as I, Michael, was at the making hereof. This is to certify you that as the turtle true, when she hath lost her mate, sitteth alone, so I, mourning for your absence, do walk up and down, pause, till one day I fell asleep and lost my master's pantofles. Mistress Susan, abolish that paltry painter, cut him off by the shins with a frowning look of your crabbed countenance, and think upon Michael, who, drunk with the dregs of your favour, will cleave as fast to your love as a plaster of pitch to a galled horseback. Thus hoping you will let my passions penetrate, or rather impetrate mercy of your meek hands, I end. Yours, Michael. Or else, not Michael.
Why, you paltry knave, stand you here loitering, knowing my affairs? What haste my business craves to send to Kent?
Faith, friend Michael, this is very ill, knowing your master hath no more but you, and do ye slack his business for your own?
Where is the letter, sirrah? Let me see it.
Then he gives him the letter.
See, Master Franklin, here's proper stuff. Susan, my maid, the painter, and my man, a crew of harlots, all in love, forsooth. Sirrah, let me hear no more of this, nor for thy life once write to her a word.
Here enters Greene, Will, and Shakebag.
Wilt thou be married to so base a trull? 'Tis Mosbie's sister. Come I once at home, I'll rouse her from remaining in my house. Now, Master Franklin, let us go walk in pools. Come but a turn or two, and then away.
And exeunt Arden, Franklin, Michael.
The first is Arden, and that's his man. The other is Franklin, Arden's dearest friend.
Zoons, I'll kill them all three.
Nay, sirs, touch not his man in any case, but stand close, and take you fittest standing, and at his coming forth speed him to the Nag's Head. There is this coward's haunt. But now I'll leave you till the deed be done.
And exit Greene.
He be not paid his own. Dare trust Shakebag.
Sirrah Shakebag, at his coming forth, I'll run him through, and then to the Blackfriars, and there take water and away.
Why, that's the best. But see thou miss him not.
How can I miss him when I think on the 40 angels I must have more?
Here enters Prentice.
Tis very late. We're best shut up my stall, for here will be old filching when the press comes forth of paws.
And then he lets down his window, and it breaks Black Will's head.
Ah! Zoons! Draw, Shakebag, I'm almost killed.
We'll tame you, I warrant.
Zoons, I'm tame enough already.
And here enters Arden, Franklin, and Michael.
What troublesome fray or mutiny is this?
'Tis nothing but some brabbling paltry fray, devised to pick men's pockets in the throng.
It's nothing else. Come, Franklin, let's away.
And they exeunt, leaving the unfortunates behind.
What mends shall I have for my broken head?
Marry, this mends that if you get you not away, all the sooner you shall be well beaten and sent to the counter.
And exit
Well,
Prentice.
I'll be gone, but look to your signs, for I'll pull 'em down all. Shakebag, my broken head grieves me not so much as by this means Arden hath escaped.
And here enters Greene.
I had a glimpse of him and his companion.
Why, sirs, Arden's as well as I. I met him and Franklin going merrily to the ordinary. What, dare you not do it?
Yes, sir, we dare do it. But were my consent to give again, we would not do it under £10 more. I value every drop of my blood at a French crown. I've had £10 to steal a dog, and we have no more here to kill a man. But that a bargain is a bargain, and so forth, you should do it yourself.
I pray thee, how came thy head broke?
Why, thou seest it is broke, dost thou not?
Standing against a stall, watching Arden's coming, a boy let down his shop window and broke his head, whereupon arose a brawl, and in the tumult Arden escaped us, and passed by unthought of. But forbearance is no acquittance. Another time we'll do it, I warrant thee.
I pray thee, will make clean thy bloody brow, and bethink us on some other place, where Arden may be met with handsomely. Remember how devotedly thou hast sworn to kill the villain. Think upon thine oath.
Tush, I've broken 500 oaths, but wouldst thou charm me to effect this deed? Tell me of gold. my resolution's fee. Say, thou seest Mosbie kneeling at my knees, offering me service for my high attempt. And sweet Alice Arden, with a lap of crowns, comes with a lowly curtsy to the earth, saying, take this but for thy quarterage, such yearly tribute will I answer thee. Why, this would steel soft-mettled cowardice, with which black will was never tainted yet. I tell thee, Greene, the forlorn traveller whose lips are glued with summer's parching heat, ne'er longed so much to see a running brook as I to finish Arden's tragedy. Seest thou this gore that cleaveth to my face? From hence ne'er will I wash this bloody stain, till Arden's heart be panting in my hand.
Why, that's well said, but what saith Shakebag?
I cannot paint my valour out with words. Give me place and opportunity, such mercy as the starving lioness, when she is dry sucked of her eager young, shows the prey that next encounters her. On Arden so much pity would I take.
So should it fare with men of firm resolve. And now, sirs, seeing that this accident of meeting him in Paul's hath no success, let us bethink of some other place, whose earth may swallow up this Arden's blood.
Here enters Michael.
See, yonder comes his man, and what you wot. This foolish knave's in love with Mosbie's sister, and for her sake whose love he cannot get, unless Mosbie solicit his suit. The villain hath sworn the slaughter of his master. We'll question him, for he may steady us much. How now, Michael? Whither are you going?
Well, my master hath new supped, and I'm going to prepare his chamber.
Where supped Master Arden?
At the Nag's Head, with the 18 pence ordinary. How now, Master Shakebag? What, Black Will, God's dear lady, how chance your face is so bloody?
Oh, go to, Sarah, there's a chance in it. This sauciness in you will make you be knocked.
Nay, and you be offended, I'll be gone.
Stay, Michael, you may not escape us so. Michael, I know you love your master well.
Why, so I do. Wherefore I do that?
Because I think you love your mistress better.
So think not I. But say your faith, what if I should?
Come to the purpose, Michael. We hear you have a pretty love in Faversham.
Why, I have 2, 3. What's that to thee?
You do too mildly with a peasant. Thus it is. 'Tis known to us that you love Mosbie's sister. We know besides that you have ta'en your oath to further Mosbie to your mistress' bed and kill your master for his sister's sake. Now, sir, a poorer coward than yourself was never fostered in the coast of Kent. How comes it then that such a knave as you dare swear a matter of such consequence?
Will.
Tush, give me leave. There's no more but this. Sith thou hast sworn, we dare discover all. And hadst thou or shouldst thou utter it, we have devised a complat underhand, whatever shall betide to any of us, to send thee roundly to the devil of hell. And therefore thus, I am the very man marked in my birth hour by the destinies to give an end to Arden's life on earth. Thou, but a member, but to whet the knife, whose edge must search the closet of his breast. Thy office is but to appoint the place and train thy master to his tragedy. Mine to perform it when occasion serves. Then be not nice, but here devise with us how and what way we may conclude his death.
So shalt thou purchase Mosbie thy friend, and by his friendship gain his sister's love.
So shall thy mistress be thy favourer, and thou disburden of the oath thou made.
Well, gentlemen, I cannot but confess, sith you have urged me so apparently, that I have vowed my master Arden's death, and he whose kindly love and liberal hand doth challenge naught but good deserts of me, I would deliver over to your hands. This night, come to his house at Aldersgate. The doors I'll leave unlocked against you come. No sooner shall he enter through the latch, over the threshold, to the inner court, but on your left hand shall you see the stairs that leads directly to my master's chamber. There, take him and dispose him as you please. Now, it were good we parted company. What I have promised, I will perform.
Should you deceive us, 'twould go wrong with you.
I will accomplish all I have revealed.
Come, let's go drink. Collar makes me as dry as a dog.
Exeunt Will, Greene, and Shakebag, leaving Michael behind.
Thus feeds the lamb securely on the down, whilst through the thicket of an arbor brake the hunger-bitten wolf o'erpries his haunt, and takes advantage for to eat him up. Ooh, harmless Arden, how hast thou misdone that thus thy gentle life is levelled at? Many good turns that thou hast done to me. Now must I quittance with betraying thee? I that should take the weapon in my hand and buckler thee from ill-intending foes, to lead thee with a wicked fraudful smile as unsuspected to the slaughterhouse. But so have I sworn to Mosbie and my mistress, and so have I promised to slaughtermen. Should I not deal currently with them, their lawless rage would take revenge on me. Tush, I will spurn at mercy for this once. Let pity lodge where feeble women lie. I am resolved, and Arden needs must die.
Exit Michael. So that's the end of scene 3. Quite a lot going on there. Plot number 1 of this session to murder Arden. Very, very simple. Waylay him in the street. Yeah, it's a very simple murder plot. And you know what? It's the kind of murder plot that by and large will probably succeed. It's not complicated. It happens all the time. So long as you don't end up with an accidental passing stranger or someone hitting you over the head as he's shutting up shop. The how precisely that bit's worked is a really interesting question about stage business, but it's a comedy pratfall. Albeit, Will's covered in blood and making this oath that he won't wash it off until he's taking it personally now. But since the last time we met them, these two, Will and Shakebag, they seem to have done their research. Mm. They didn't get told that much information in the first scene that we saw them in last time, scene 2, and yet now they seem to know everything. Which suggests they're professionals. They're not idiots. They're going to do a little bit of asking around. But presumably also they've been told some other stuff. But yeah, they really know everything here, and they really know where everybody else is at. It's just go, you're not up to murdering, are you, mate? Yeah, leave it to the professionals. Leave that to us. Even Michael's plan isn't. It's a bit more risky. Plot number 2 of this session. I'll leave the door unlocked. You can go up and murder him in his sleep. That's a bit more risky because you might be trapped in an enclosed space, but it's a reasonable murder plot as well. We haven't got any poisonous crucifixes or paintings that kill you by looking on them, issues. We're in a very different world to scene 1 and the murder plots there. Thoughts from the room? There's so much going on here, so much to unpick. Anybody got things they want to leap in on first? Eric?
I feel like we should start keeping track of the different plots, just like because last time we had Alice kind of just throwing people sort of propositions to go murder Arden. I feel like we need like a sort of flip chart slash a table, Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, because it's not that we've got more people organising the murder, but we've got people who are supposed to be ordering the murder talking to each other in ways as well, and we have sort of actionable plots as opposed to just commissioning people to murder. So that's sort of what's happening today, is more, a more pragmatic thing, and of course all these people who've been told about the murder are starting to talk to each other, and that's already creating complications, because of course they're going to start realizing that they've been promised the same thing as each other, possibly. Lois, then Lynn, then Rachael.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about this scene, but just 2 quick points. One is that Michael was illiterate the last time we saw him. Now it appears that he can read, but presumably he got this letter written by somebody else, which is why he's reading it aloud with such pleasure. And whoever he got to write it is not very good. The second thing is just that obviously the way that Will gets banged on the head is so stupid that he doesn't like to talk about it. I mean, there's several people ask him, what happened to you? And he refuses to say.
Yes, he's got some street cred to maintain. Lynn, muted at the moment.
I suppose if we wanted to rationalize the bit with Michael, reading and writing were taught as separate skills, so he might be able to read but not be able to write. But the thing that leaped out at me in this sequence is that Michael actually has a moment of conscience. He's a pretty good master, and really I should be the one defending him, not murdering him. Oh well, I promised. I guess I better do it. But the fact that he does have a moment as hesitation surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, especially considering the scene that we had with him earlier, where that didn't seem to come up at all. But then I don't know if we got any interiority to him before, so whether it's just we don't have the full picture of what's going on with Michael. It's perfectly consistent, and it's just who he's in the room with changes, who you are to a degree, and how you're reacting to them. But I'm not sure on that point. Rachael, then Stephen, and then Aliki.
Yesterday Lynn was talking about, people's, morality and how there's no moral compass here. And Greene is telling, Will to keep to his oath. So I just think in this amorality play, this amoral play, to ask somebody to stay to their oath is interesting. And just I also think Greene as a character is not experienced in murder, and so the threats that Will throws out towards Michael, and that he throws out these threats so easily, I think there's some discomfiture there. And you're seeing these, not just these murderers interact, but the dissension in the murderers' ranks, I guess.
Yes, all the oaths, people making it. We know what oaths are like in this play. We've had mention of oaths and people swearing by things and then immediately breaking that oath, within seconds. So yeah, it's running as a running theme. Stephen.
It kind of feels a bit like Michael's been demoted. This feels like the kind of servant and sort of angry masters scene in play. There's kind of the groveling and the not really completely being up to speed with everybody, and that seems to me to be a change. But it's of a piece with I can't remember. It might have been Lynn remarked on yesterday. It's this kind of Looney Tunes aspect to this, which is as you've already noted. That we've got this huge element of slapstick, and yet they're walking around like they're in the freaking Spanish tragedy. The speeches that these guys have got, you'd only need about 3 more classical references, and it's the full-on kid, isn't it? And so there's this really interesting disjunction. I mean, it's in the trade they call it a domestic tragedy, disjunction between the rhetoric that they're using and the actuality that we're seeing, which has it kind of. You can imagine a production. I've only seen it once, and I think it went for full-on no sense of humour. But you can imagine a production which would do a sort of In Bruges or something on it. You would never be quite sure. So it's taken a comic turn, it seems to me.
And it's, the potential's been there from that we've noted yesterday. Black farce being one of the options here, and it's that question of how far you lean that way, especially as we get closer to potentially more successful attempts at murder and the implications of those as well. So if the play is pushing us in different directions, there are lots of options. Aliki, then Eric.
Very much along the lines of what Rachael was saying, only for me, I take it as one of the comic points that while murder and all kinds of other things apparently are just fine, breaking your word is a dreadful crime. So I don't know. It's like I'm trying to think that there's a relevant scene, but it's not coming to me. Imagine wholesale movie slaughter, and then somebody escaping the scene steps into the street when there is a "Don't Walk" sign, and all of a sudden, no, there's a "Don't Walk" sign. That kind of thing.
Eric.
Yeah, I was going to go back to Stephen's point where it's kind of what's it called. They're not like other murders that we've seen in sort of even in history plays where they appear as sort of in pairs usually, and there isn't that, they haven't had that moment of remorse yet, which I mean might come, might not come, but they just seem very comedy what's it called comedy driven. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Yeah, but they are quite well rounded. I mean, that this sort of underworld that they inhabit is very nicely drawn, and it's very plausible. These people know their job, as far as they currently appear. They appear to be well established in the underworld on some level. Whether they're stepping beyond their station by attempting murder or not is a question that we might look into as we go forward. Certainly it depends on whose fault it was. Was Will just really unbelievably unlucky, or was that down to his ineptitude of trying to walk in a straight line? The lengths to which he will sort of bombast himself out of making the blood seem noble on some level. There's really lots of interesting questions about how this plays. We do, however, need to get some more data, so we're going to go to scene 4, and we're going back to Arden and the double act we opened the play with. Arden and Franklin, and I'm going to have more cake.
No, Franklin, no. If fear or stormy threats, if love of me or care of womanhood, if fear of God or common speech of men who mangle credit with their wounding words, and couch dishonour as dishonour buds, might join repentance in her wanton thoughts, no question then, but she would turn the leaf and sorrow for her dissolution. But she's rooted in her wickedness, perverse and stubborn, not to be reclaimed. Good counsel is to her as rain to weeds, and reprehension makes her vice to grow as Hydra's head that plenished by decay. Her faults, methink, are painted in my face, for every searching eye to overread, and Mosbie's name, a scandal unto mine, is deeply trenched in my blushing brow. Franklin, when I think on this, my heart's grief rends my other powers, worse than the conflict at the hour of death.
Gentle Arden, leave this sad lament. She will amend, and so will your grief cease. Or else she'll die, and so your sorrows end. If neither of these two do happily fall, yet let your comfort be that others bear your woes, twice doubled all with patience.
My house is irksome, there I cannot rest.
Then stay with me in London, go not home.
Then that base Mosbie doth usurp my room, and makes his triumph of my being thence. At home or not at home, where'er I be, here it lies. Franklin, here it lies, that will not out till wretched Arden dies.
Here enters Michael.
Forget your griefs a while, here comes your man.
What o'clock is, sirrah?
Almost 10.
See how runs away the weary time. Come, Master Franklin, shall we go to bed?
And exeunt Arden and Michael, leaving Franklin.
I pray you go before. I'll follow you. What a fretful hell! What a hell is fretful jealousy! What pity-moving words! What deep-fetched sighs! What grievous groans and overlading woes accompanies this gentle gentleman! Now will he shake his care-oppressed head and fix his sad eyes on the sullen earth, ashamed to gaze upon the open world. Now will he cast his eyes up towards the heavens, looking that's ways for redress of wrong. Sometimes he seeketh to beguile his grief and tells a story with his careful tongue. Then comes his wife's dishonor in his thoughts, and in the middle cutteth off his tale, pouring fresh sorrow on his weary limbs. So woe begone, so inly charged with woe, was never lived any in bear it so.
And here enters Michael.
My master would desire you to come to bed.
Is he himself already in his bed?
And exit Franklin, leaving Michael alone again.
He is, and fain would have the light away. Conflicting thoughts encamped in my breast, awake me with the echo of their strokes, and I, adjudged to censure either side, can give to neither wished victory. Master's kindness pleads to me for life, with just demand. I must grant it him. Our mistress, she hath forced me with an oath. For Susan's sake, the which I may not break. That is nearer than a master's love. That grim-faced fellow, pitiless black will and Shakebag, stern in bloody stratagem, two rougher ruffians never lived in Kent, sworn my death if I infringe my vow. Dreadful thing to be considered of. Methinks I see them, with their bolstered hair, staring and grinning at thy gentle face, and in their ruthless hands their daggers drawn, and insulting o'er thee with a peck of oaths, whilst thou, submissive, pleading for relief, art mangled by their ireful instruments. Methinks I hear them ask where Michael is, and pitiless Black Will cries, "Stab the slave, the peasant will detect the tragedy." The wrinkles in his foul, death-threatening face gapes open wide like graves to swallow men. My death to him is but a merriment, and he will murder me to make him sport. Yeah, here he comes! Master Franklin, help! Call on the neighbours, women dead!
And here enters Franklin and Arden.
What dismal outcry calls me from my rest?
What hath occasioned such a fearful cry? Speak, Michael. Hath any injured thee?
Nothing, sir, but as I fell asleep upon the threshold, leaning to the stairs, I had a fearful dream that troubled me, and in my slumber thought I was beset with murder thieves that come to rob me, and my trembling joints witness my inward fear. I crave your pardons for disturbing you.
So great a cry for nothing I ne'er heard. What, are the doors fast locked and all things safe?
I cannot tell. I think I locked the doors.
I like not this, but I'll go see myself. Ne'er trust me, but the doors were all unlocked. This negligence not half contenteth me. Get you to bed, and if you love my favour, let me have no more such pranks as these. Come, Master Franklin, let us go to bed.
Aye, by my faith, the air is very cold. Michael, farewell. I pray thee dream no more.
Yes, dream no more, Michael. Yeah. Oh, what a series of business going on here. I mean, Michael's situation here has been, set up in to a degree in the previous scene, but yeah, it's talking himself out of being involved in a murder, ends up waking everybody up, and oh, maybe the doors are unlocked. Oh, maybe someone else should check, so I can completely abrogate any responsibility for this stuff. Thoughts from the room. Lois.
Yeah, it does make me feel there's another author, writing here. Michael sounds very different from the way he sounded in the early scenes of the play. I mean, just a lot less dumb and a lot more refined in his language.
But only in his inner voice, maybe
That's it.
inside. He
His
had,
inner
because
voice.
I don't think we had interiority in that first scene at all. So it might just be that that we just didn't have that level being given us earlier. I may be clutching at straws. On that level. Lynn.
I tend to agree with Lois. It's maybe it's partly an effect of where we split the text, but it does feel like the play's a little different today. I was just been sort of scrolling through, and there's these long monologues, which we didn't really have yesterday. So again, we've introduced interiority, of which there was very little in the first act and in the first two scenes, and then Michael he feels different to me as well. He's very funny and sort of humanized in a way that wasn't achieved, I didn't feel, in the first two scenes.
But is he funny, or is he played funny? I mean, is that textual? Is that a choice by Stephen? I'm not saying it's a bad choice, but is that inherent in the text? I'll go to Stephen. I did see lots of other hands, but I'll go to Stephen on that one because I sort of threw it at him.
Sorry. There's the question of the blank verse, isn't there? That's really odd because you can sort of play him as a kind of quite close to a conventional portrayal of a servant angling towards the comic. But what on earth do you do with this blank verse in that case? And I suppose the choice I made was to kind of ham it up and have him almost pretending that he wasn't really saying it. There's kind of, it's odd for that stuff to be coming out of this character's mouth, given the other signals that we've been getting. It feels quite strange to do. But playing it the way the verse seems to want to take it, I think would also lose something. Quite serious verse,
because this could be an entirely serious, struggle within Michael with his conscience. Having been an eager participant in the first scene, he's actually had some time to think about it, and there's a very fundamental difference between thinking about something and doing something. I'll go to Helen, then Eric.
One thing I noticed was that Michael was unable to tell an outright lie about the doors. And also, the thing that really hit me was what dismal outcry calls me from my rest. I flash back, not so many years, is it? How many years are we since the Spanish tragedy?
Only a handful. If this is at its latest point, 1591-92 is the printing. So Spanish tragedies, what, 87, 88, something like that? 88, isn't it?
Right.
So
I taking that line of Franklin's along with everything else, I must say I think there are elements of spoof here.
Which might be distorting motivations if there is an effect that's being played for a scene or certain scenes rather than as a through line.
Yeah.
Eric.
I was just going to say, it reminds me a bit of sort of what's called like detective mysteries where you've got like, I don't know, sort of Poirot or Miss Marple trying to figure out who's good, that one of them is going to die, obviously. But it's kind of that thing of, who did it by negligence? Who was sort of, who forgot by accident to lock the doors, or who did this? I don't know. It just feels like that kind of second guessing element that you don't know what is actually going on in the character's mind.
I think there's an important note to be made about the whole thing about Franklin and Arden, sharing about this is perfectly common practice. I think there's an important note for modern performance to make that not throw people down a wrong alley, unless that's a very deliberate choice that you're making for your production. But it does slightly change the motivations. But yes, that's an important point. You know, sharing a bed is in this fashion is perfectly standard practice. And yes, that's not what the scene is, where the scene is going with Arden, in terms of original intention. Helen.
Yes, and the reason he wants Franklin to come to bed is because he wants to blow the candle out.
Yeah,
so he can get to sleep, but he can't do that until Franklin's got upstairs and got himself into his nightgown.
And it's cold, as Franklin states. You know, it's time for bed. You know, there's nothing more to be done. Let's go to bed. We've had enough. It's been a long day. Okay, we will go forward. Scene 5. We may even rattle into a scene that follows it. But let's go and encounter. Here's Will, Greene, and Shakebag again.
Black night hath hid the pleasures of the day. Sheeting darkness overhangs the earth, and with the black fold of our cloudy robe obscures us from the eyesight of the world, in which sweet silence such as we triumph. Lazy minutes linger on their time, as loath to give due audit to the hour, till in the watch our purpose be complete, and Arden sent to everlasting night. Greene, get you gone, and linger here about, and at some hour hence come to us again, where we will give you instance of his death.
Speed to my wish, whose will soe'er says no. And so I'll leave you for an hour or two.
And exit Greene.
I tell thee, Shakebag, would this thing were done. I am so heavy that I can scarce go. This drowsiness in me bodes little good.
Oh, now, Will, become a precision? Nay, then let's go to sleep, when bugs and fears shall kill our courages with their fancy's work.
Why, Shakebag, thou mistakes me much, and wrongs me too, in telling me of fear. Were it not a serious thing we go about, it should be slipped till I had fought with thee, to let thee know I am no coward, I tell thee, Shakebag, thou abusest me.
Why, thy speech bewrayed an inly kind of fear, savoured of a weak, relenting spirit. Go forward now in that we have begun, afterwards attempt me when thou darest.
And if I do not, heaven cut me off. But let that pass, and show me to this house, where thou shalt see I'll do as much as Shakebag.
This is the door. Soft, methinks 'tis shut. Villain Michael hath deceived us.
Soft, let me see. Shakebag. 'Tis shut indeed. Knock with thy sword, perhaps the slave will hear.
It will not be. The white-livered peasant is gone to bed, and laughs us both to scorn.
And he shall buy his merriment, as dear as ever coistrel bought so little sport. Ne'er let this sword assist me when I need, but rust and canker after I have sworn. If I, the next time that I meet the hind, lop not away his leg, his arm, or both.
And let me never draw a sword again, nor prosper in the twilight cockshut light, when I would fleece the wealthy passenger, that lie and languish in a loathsome den, hated and spit at by the goers by, and in that death may die unpitied. If I, the next time that I meet the slave, cut not the nose from off the coward's face, and trample on it for this villainy.
Come, let's go seek out Greene. I know he'll swear.
He were a villain, and he would not swear. 'Twould make a peasant swear among his boys, that ne'er durst before say before but yea or nay, to be thus flouted costerel.
Yeah, Shakebag, let's seek out Greene. And in the morning at the alehouse, butting Arden's house, watch the outcoming of that prick-eared cur, and then let me alone to handle him.
And they exit So yes, all this cunning plan has been thwarted by a locked door. Michael had better watch his back. He's wronged, angered some dangerous people. Some dangerous people, or they might be dangerous. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Will basically seems to be saying at the beginning of the scene, "I really hate working nights." And then the other one takes it as, what, you're afraid to do the murder? No, that is not what I said, and I will fight you to the death for anyone who suggests such a thing. Reputation seems really important to this guy. Seems a really big thing. Any brief thoughts to throw in at this juncture, Alan?
I must admit, I don't think anybody ever edited the original script for continuity, because we've had so many screeching U-turns in terms of characterization, verse style, the fact that the two brokers' men seem to have learned an awful lot of the backstory with no explanation of how. I get the impression that the whole thing was designed to be paid at very considerable pace so that nobody in the audience actually realised the discontinuities.
Well, it's an interesting question whether the discontinuities are something that fundamentally are a problem. There does seem to be in performance. For example, that Will and Shakebag knowing more stuff after some time has passed is not inherently a discontinuity. It just hasn't been flagged up in the text. There are other much more serious discontinuities. But I don't think that's quite come up yet. But there are discontinuities, yes. But you're right. Would an audience in a production really notice them? Can they be massaged out? I think they're probably fine so far. Still fun. Therefore, I don't care. Really, Eric.
All the swearing. The sort of, by the oaths, I mean, sort of, if the next time I meet the slave, cutting out the nose off and so on and so forth, they feel a bit like over the top, like sort of comedy over the top. I don't know if that's just the way it's written or the way it's like sort of, because we have this idea in our heads that it might be for laughs, and we just think that it is for laughs, whereas it's not. I don't know.
Stephen.
Yeah, just to sort of jump in on that point. The first oath kind of takes all the good stuff, doesn't it? So I will cut his leg off. I will cut his arm off. The next guy goes, well, I will cut his nose off and I'll trample it.
Yeah.
You could play that very kind of comical swearing, couldn't you?
We've gone for that first scene where, they seem quite plausible villains to something where they're starting to... The edge is starting to come off a bit here as to their practical usefulness. Helen?
I think I want to put it on record that I'm down with Lois about this being a different writer to what we read yesterday.
I don't know whether discontinuity is inherently leaping to a different hand. Could just be a different
No, it's not that. It's a different everything.
In what way?
It's not the same guy.
In what? Could you elaborate?
Not really. It's a gut feeling. We got to. Well, no, they're. It's a different. It's not the same guy.
Okay. Other thoughts or elaboration upon Lois, then Rachael.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'd have to look at it really closely, but it seems to me what I recall from yesterday is just a more colloquial feel to it, and today a much more kind of solemn, measured tone to it. The language doesn't race along in quite the same way, except maybe maybe the letter that Michael reads. But I mean, I think a lot of this is comic bombast, probably, but it doesn't sound quite the same way these guys were talking when we first met them.
Yeah, but it may just be that they're doing, these bits are doing different comedy kinds of. If we are talking about comedy, and that is the intent, then that's not necessarily a different hand. It's that there's a different game being played in these scenes. There's a very different comedy sort of business going on with Alice, as opposed to what comedy ruffians are doing here. and that might just see that there's a different game in play, not necessarily a different hand at play. Because we're in a very different location, remember. We're, for most of what we did yesterday. And I don't see a fundamental discontinuity between Will and, primarily Will, because Shakebag did pretty much bugger all yesterday. Then it seems like it could be an elaboration rather than anything else. Will was mostly talking in prose last time, so there is, or at least it was laid out as prose. Whether it actually is or not is always another matter. Rachael, then I think Aliki.
No, just to go further in the direction of, thinking that this might be somebody different. I was going to say that thing about Will, that today he's speaking a lot in verse as opposed to in prose. And Shakebag also seems to have, been elaborated so much more. And yesterday I got the impression that he was, somehow a lackey as opposed to, Will's equal. But most of all is just the shift from this being so centric on Alice to, then getting into everybody else. But yeah, I'm on the train of that it does seem very different from yesterday, and that this does feel a little bit like somebody else, even if a change doesn't necessarily mean that it is someone else.
Yeah, there's a fundamental different point about, is the play doing something different, which is useful, whereas is it another hand? Doesn't matter. It's fundamentally the same text, and we need to deal with that. So it's identifying what's different is cool, but herring after, well, it might be a different hand. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. What's the play doing? Aliki.
So yesterday I wasn't very convinced that it was funny. A lot of you were saying it was, and I wasn't seeing it. Mostly, I think, because I was so annoyed by the portrayal of Alice as the kind of stereotypical faithless wife, murderous idiot. Well, that's a boring character. Come on, this is propaganda. But yeah, I'm finding it a lot funnier now. I'm not saying anything about authorship because I don't know, but I can really see that it's funny. And maybe that's me tuning into it more than anything else. I don't know.
We are Lynn.
Oh, I was just going to say that I don't really kind of remember head count or anything from yesterday, but it might be those of us who perceive that the text is funny. We are biased by the fact that we're familiar with it and have read it before. So we were sort of back forming humor into those first two scenes. Because we know how it goes later on. So don't listen to us necessarily. Maybe the first two scenes really aren't that funny.
Yes, this is one of the disadvantages of doing plays that people know. It's so much easier when you're doing King Darius because nobody's got a clue. We've read through it and we still haven't got a clue. So anyway. We're going to go forward. I'm going to run the next two scenes into each other. Here for scene 6, here enters Arden, Franklin, and Michael.
Sirrah, get you back to Billingsgate and learn what time the tide will serve our turn. Come to us in pools. First go make the bed, and afterwards go hearken for the flood.
Exit Michael.
Come, Master Franklin, you shall go with me. This night I dreamt that being in a park, a toil was pitched to overthrow the deer, and I upon a little rising hill stood wistly watching for the herd's approach. Even there, methoughts, a gentle slumber took me, and summoned all my parts to sweet repose. But in the pleasure of this golden rest, an ill-thewed foster had removed the toil, and rounded me with that beguiling home which late, methought, was pitched to cast the deer. With that, he blew an evil-sounding horn, and at the noise another herdman came, with falchion drawn, and bent it at my breast, crying aloud, "Thou art the game we seek." With this I woke, and trembled every joint, like one obscured in a little bush that sees a lion foraging about. And when the dreadful forest king is gone, he pries about with timorous suspect, throughout the thorny casements of the brake, and will not think his person dangerless, but quakes and shivers, though the cause be gone. So trust me, Franklin, when I did awake, I stood in doubt whether I waked or no. Such great impression took this fond surprise. God grant this vision bedeem me any good.
This fantasy doth rise from Michael's fear, who being awaked with the noise he made, his troubled senses yet couldn't take no rest. And this, I warrant you, procured your dream.
It may be so, God frame it to the best, but oftentimes my dreams presage too true.
To such as note their nightly fantasies, some 1 in 20 may incur belief, but use it not, 'tis but a mockery.
Come, Master Franklin, we'll now walk in pools and dine together at the ordinary, and by my man's direction draw to the quay, and with the tide go down to Faversham. Say, Master Franklin, shall it not be so?
At your good pleasure, sir. I'll bear you company.
And they exit, going straight into scene 7. Here enters Michael at one door. Here enters Greene, Will, and Shakebag at another
Draw,
door.
Shakebag, for here's that villain Michael.
First, Will, let's hear what he can say.
Speak, milksop slave, and never after speak.
For God's sake, sirs, let me excuse myself, for here I swear by heaven and earth and all, I did perform the utmost of my task. I left the doors unbolted and unlocked, but see the chance. Franklin and my master were very late conferring in the porch, and Franklin left his napkin where he sat with certain gold knit in it, as he said, being in bed, he did bethink himself, and coming down, he found the doors unshut. He locked the gates and brought away the keys, for which offence my master rated me. But now I'm going to see what flood it is, for with the tide my master will away, where you may front him well on Rainham Down, a place well fitting such a stratagem.
Your excuse hath somewhat mollified my choler. Why, now, Greene, 'tis better now nor e'er it was.
But, Michael, is this true?
As true as I report it to be true.
Then, Michael, this shall be your penance, to feast us all at the salutation, where we will plat our purpose thoroughly.
And, Michael, you shall bear no news of this tide, because they too may be in Rainham Down, because before your master.
Well, I'll agree to anything you have me, so you will accept of my company.
And they exit. As true as I report it to be true. Now, there's something for a select committee, isn't it? Is that a true statement of events? It's as true as I report it to be true. Yes. I'm going to hold on to that for a while. Yeah, we noted in scene 5, Michael had better watch out, and lo and behold, we have that potential comeuppance for Michael here, as not very happy people interrogate him as to why the door was sodding locked. Yes, and though in between we have Arden and Franklin, and we have this these presages of doom and possibility. And we've had questions about dreams and what happens during slumber in the first scene. So there is an ongoing theme perhaps being pressed here, with lots of continuity in terms of talking about oaths and certain thematic things going on. Other thoughts, Aliki?
Well, obviously oaths are not that important, because just a scene ago these guys were swearing to do Michael bodily harm, and now all he has to do is pick up the tab.
Yes, they have mollified his collar somewhat mollified, not all the way mollified, just somewhat. Any other thoughts? In a sense, the Arden thing is potentially just straightforwardly pragmatic. If you need something to separate Will and Shakebag and Will and Shakebag scenes, so that basically we get the idea that time has passed and Arden has woken up. But it does set up these questions about how much the expectation of bad things are going to be happening to people. And it does, again, touch the tone. It's not inherently a funny scene, the Arden and Franklin scene. You might be able to play it that way. That's the murder victim there, just talking about things hinting at... because remember, we're trying to murder someone, just to make sure everyone's remembering that thing. We got almost a touch back to morality plays. I think Eric said this earlier about the bad people all getting into arguments with each other, and that's sort of what's going on here. All the vices are in conflict with each other as rather than working very efficiently together for various ways. So that has an interesting little touch back to earlier traditions, if not very explicitly stated. I think we could overstate that. I certainly could. But I've got cake, so I don't care. Any other thoughts before we go into scene 8, which is a bit more substantial? No. Okay, scene 8, and we are back in the bosom of the household. I don't know how busy Alice and Mosbie have been in the absence of Arden. Let's have the entrance of Mosbie for scene 8.
Disturbed thoughts drives me from company and dries my marrow with their watchfulness. Continual trouble of my moody brain feebles my body by excessive drink, and nips me as the bitter northeast wind doth check the tender blossoms in the spring. Well fares the man, howe'er his cates do taste, that tables not with foul suspicion, and he but pines amongst his delicates, whose troubled mind is stuffed with discontent. My golden time, when I had no gold, though then I wanted, yet I slept secure. My daily toil begat my night's repose. My night's repose made daylight fresh to me. But since I climbed the top bough of the tree and sought to build my nest among the clouds, each gentle stirry gale does shake my bed and makes me dread my downfall to the earth. But whither doth contemplation carry me? The way I seek to find where pleasure dwells is hedged behind me that I cannot back, but needs must on, although to danger's gate. Then, Arden, perish thou by that decree, for Greene doth ear the land and weed thee up to make my harvest nothing but pure corn. And for his pains, I'll hive him up a while, and after smother him to have his wax. Such bees as Greene must never live to sting. Then there is Michael and the painter too, chief actors to Arden's overthrow, who when they shall see me sit in Arden's seat, they will insult upon me for my meed, or fright me by detecting of his end. I'll none of that, for I can cast a bone to make these curs pluck out each other's throats. And then am I sole ruler of mine own. Yet Mistress Arden lives, but she's myself. The Holy Church rites make us two but one. And what for that? I may not trust you, Alice. You have supplanted Arden for my sake, and will extirpin me to plant another. 'Tis fearful sleeping in a serpent's bed, and I will clearly rid my hands of her.
Here enters Alice.
But here she comes, and I must flatter her. How now, Alice? What's sad and passionate? Make me partaker of thy pensiveness. Fire divided burns with lesser force.
But I will damn that fire in my breast, till by the force thereof my part consume. Oh, Mosbie!
Such deep pethares, like to a cannon's burst discharged against a ruinated wall, breaks my relenting heart in 1,000 pieces. Ungentle Alice, thy sorrow is my sore. Thou knowest it well, and 'tis thy policy to forge distressful looks, to wound a breast where lies a heart that dies when thou art sad. It is not love that loves to anger love.
It is not love that loves to murder love.
How mean you that?
Thou knowest how dearly Arden loved me.
And then?
And then, conceal the rest, for 'tis too bad, lest that my words be carried with the wind and published in the world to both our shames. I pray thee, Mosbie, let our springtime wither. Our harvest else will yield but loathsome weeds. Forget, I pray thee, what has passed between us, for how I blush and tremble at the thought.
What? Are you changed?
Aye, to my former happy life again, from title of an odious strumpet's name to honest Arden's wife, not Arden's honest wife. Mosbie, 'tis thou hast riffled me of that, and made me slanderous to all my kin. Even in my forehead is thy name engraven, a mean artificer, that low-born name. I was bewitched. Woe worth the hapless hour and all the causes that enchanted me.
Nay, if you ban, let me breathe curses forth. And if you stand so nicely at your fame, let me reprint the credit I have lost. I have neglected matters of import that would have stated me above thy state. For load advantages and spurned at time, I, fortune's right hand, Mosbie's hand forsook, to take a wanton giglet by the left. I left the marriage of an honest maid, whose dowry would have weighted down thy wealth, whose beauty and demeanor far exceeded thee, and certain good I lost for changing bad, and wrapped my credit in thy company. I was bewitched. That is no theme of thine, and thou, unhallowed, has enchanted me. But I will break thy spells and exorcisms, and put another sight upon these eyes that showed my heart a raven for a dove. Thou art not fair. I viewed thee not till now. Thou art not kind. Till now I knew thee not. And now the rain has beaten off thy guilt. Thy worthless copper shows thee counterfeit. It grieves me not to see how foul thou art, but mads me that I ever thought thee fair. Go, get thee gone, a copsemate for thy hinds. I am too good to be thy favorite.
Why, now I see, and too soon find it true, which often have been told me by my friends, that Mosbie loves me not for my wealth, which, too incredulous, I never believed. Nay, hear me speak, Mosbie, a word or two. Bite my tongue if it speak bitterly. Look on me, Mosbie, or I'll kill myself. Nothing shall hide me from thy stormy look. If thou cry war, there is no peace for me. I will do penance for offending thee, and burn this prayer book where I here use the holy word that had converted me. See, Mosbie, I will tear away the leaves, and all the leaves, and in this golden cover shall thy sweet phrases and thy letters dwell, whereon will I chiefly meditate, and hold no other sect but such devotion. Wilt thou not look? It's all thy love o'erwhelmed. Wilt thou not hear? What malice stops thine ears? Why speakst thou not? What silence ties thy tongue? Thou hast been sighted, as the eagle is, and heard as quickly as the fearful hare, and spoke as smoothly as an orator when I have bid thee hear, or see, or speak. And art thou sensible in none of these? Weigh all thy good turns with this little fault, and I deserve not Mosbie's muddy looks. Offensive trouble is not thick and still. Be clear again, I'll ne'er more trouble thee.
No, I am a base artificer. My wings are feathered for a lowly flight. Mosbie, fie. No, not for £1,000. Make love to you? Why, 'tis unpardonable. We beggars must not breathe where gentles are.
Sweet Mosbie is as gentle as a king, and I too blind to judge him otherwise. Flowers do sometimes spring in fallow lands, weeds in gardens, roses grow on thorns. So whatsoe'er my Mosbie's father was himself, is valued gentle by his worth.
Ah, how you women can insinuate and clear a trespass with your sweet set tongue. I will forget this quarrel, gentle Alice, provided I'll be tempted so no more.
Here enters Bradshaw.
Then with thy lips seal up this new-made match.
Soft, Alice, here comes somebody.
How now, Bradshaw? What's the news with you?
I have little news, but here's a letter that Master Greene importuned me to give you.
Go in, Bradshaw. Call for a cup of beer. 'Tis almost supper time. Thou shalt stay with us.
Exit Bradshaw. Then she reads the letter.
We have missed our purpose at London, but shall perform it by the way. We thank our neighbour Bradshaw. Yours, Richard Greene. How likes my love the tenor of this letter?
Well, were his date completed and expired.
How would it were! Then comes my happy hour. Till then, my bliss is mixed with bitter gall. Come, let us in, to shun suspicion.
Aye, to the gates of death to follow thee.
And they exit. So yes, we have a continuation of the game being played between Alice and Mosbie. We said at yesterday with Mosbie of going, he's really not into this anymore, is he? No, he's looking over his shoulder for an escape route. And this is the first time we actually get interiority from Mosbie. We haven't had any interior monologue from him yet, and so we have this late onset stuff. And then we have Alice trying to look for routes out, and you bewitched me, no, you bewitched me, and then they sort of talk themselves to a standstill, and it's a really interesting little scene. It's sort of doing things that we had earlier, but doing in a slightly different combination and way. I think Aliki wants to jump in. Lynn also afterwards.
I mean, do they talk themselves into a standstill? It feels almost like some kind of sex game, you know? This is their kink.
I think that's a very reasonable way of playing that, because there's quite a suggestiveness to quite a bit of what happened earlier, and especially at the end, just as Bradshaw enters and thy lips seal up this new made match. No, there are witnesses. Shush. Please stop. Lynn.
Yeah, they keep trying to break up, and but they can't quite seem to bring themselves to do it. Yeah, so decisions must be made about what's going on there. Is it because they basically kind of can't keep their hands off each other, or are they just so inept that they can't? I mean, they both kind of want to end it, but they're so busy playing deceptive games that they fail at doing the one thing they want to do. Like, what is going on there?
Alice, sad and passionate. Discuss. And what the slight difference shifts in meaning in terms of what might be meant there. And reputation. This question of reputation of there's no point murdering your husband if everybody knows. They've really played this very badly. Any other thoughts before we move on? We have a couple more scenes to do this session. Okay, let's go on to scene 9. We're back with Greene, Will, and Shakebag.
Come, Will, see thy tools be in a readiness. Is not thy powder dank, or will thy flint strike fire?
Lois, you are muted, I'm afraid. You're doing a wonderful performance, but nobody is hearing it.
I should be.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, I thought I'd unmuted. That's weird. Okay, then ask me if my nose be on my face or whether my tongue be frozen in my mouth. Zoons, here's a coil. You were best swear me on the interrogatories how many pistols I have took in hand, or whether I love the smell of gunpowder, or dare abide the noise the dag will make, or will not wink at flashing of the fire. I pray thee, Shakebag, let this answer thee, that I have took more purses in this down than e'er thou handledst pistols in thy life.
Aye, happily thou hast picked more in a throng. But should I brag what booties I have took? I think the overplus that's more than thine would mount to a greater sum of money than either thou or all thy kin are worth. Sounds, I hate them, as I hate a toad that carry a muscado in their tongue, and scarce a hurting weapon in their hand.
Oh, Greene, intolerable. It is not for mine honour to bear this. Why, Shakebag, I did serve the king at Boulogne, and thou canst brag of nothing thou hast done.
Why, so can Jack of Faversham, that sounded for Philip on the nose, when he that gave it him hollowed in his ear, and he supposed a cannon bullet hit him.
And then they fight indeed, as was beautifully acted there.
I pray you, sirs, list Aesop's talk. Whilst two stout dogs were striving for a bone, there comes a cur and stole it from them both. So, while you stand striving on these terms of manhood, Arden escapes us and deceives us all.
Why, he began.
And thou shalt find I'll end. I do but slip it until better time. But if I do forget, let my...
Then he kneels down and holds up his hands to heaven.
Well, take your fittest standings, and once more, lime well your twigs to catch this wary bird. I'll leave you, and at your dag's discharge, make towards, like the longing water dog, that coucheth till the fowling piece be off, then seizeth on the prey with eager mood. Ah, might I see him stretching forth his limbs, as I have seen them beat their wings ere now.
Why, that thou shalt see, if he comes this way.
Yes, that he doth, Shakebag, I warrant thee. But brawl not when I am gone in any case. But, sirs, be sure to speed him when he comes, and in that hope I'll leave you for an hour.
Exit Greene, just at the moment as murder plot number 3 is attempted. Here enters Arden, Franklin and Michael.
Were best that I went back to Rochester. I mean, the horse halts downright. It were not good. He travelled in such pain to Faversham. Removing of a shoe may haply help it.
Well, get you back to Rochester, but sirrah, see ye take us ere we come to Rainham down, for 'twill be very late ere we get home.
Aye, God he knows, and so does Will and Shakebag, that thou shalt never go further than that down. Therefore have I pricked the horse on purpose, because I would not view the massacre.
And exit Michael.
Come, Master Franklin, onwards with your tale.
I do assure you, sir, you do ask me much. A heavy blood is gathered at my heart, and on the sudden my wind is so short, and hindereth the passage of my speech. So fierce a qualm, yet ne'er assailed me.
Come, Master Franklin, let us go on softly. The annoyance of the dust, or else some meat you ate at dinner, cannot brook with you. I have been often so, and soon amended.
Do you remember where my tale did leave?
Aye, where the gentleman did check his wife.
She being reprehended for the fact, witness produced that took her with the deed. Her glove brought in which there she left behind, and many other assured arguments. Her husband asked her whether it were not so.
Her answer then, I wonder how she looked, having forsworn it with such vehement oaths, and at the instant so approved upon her.
First, she cast her eyes down to the earth, watching the drops that fell amain from thence. Then softly draws she forth her handkerchief, and modestly she wipes her tear-stained face. Then hemmed she out to clear her voice. To clear her voice should seem, and with the majesty addressed herself to encounter all their accusations. Pardon me, Master Arden, this I can no more. This fighting at my heart makes short my wind.
Come, we are almost now at Rainham Down. Your pretty tale beguiles the weary way. I would you were in state to tell it out.
Stand close, Will. I hear them coming.
And here enters Lord Cheyne with his men.
And to it, Shakebag, and be resolute.
Is it so near night as it seems? Or will this black-faced evening have a shower? What, Master Arden, you are well met. I have longed this fortnight's day to speak with you. You are a stranger man in the Isle of Sheppey.
Sorry, Cat. Your honour's always bound to do you service.
Come you from London? And ne'er a man with you?
My man's coming after, but here's my honest friend that came along with me.
My Lord Protector's man I'd take you to be.
I am, my good lord, and highly bound to you.
You and your friend, come home and sup with me.
I beseech your honour pardon me. I have made a promise to a gentleman, my honest friend, to meet him at my house. The occasion is great, or else I would wait on you.
Will you come tomorrow and dine with me, and bring your honest friend along with you? I have divers matters to talk with you about.
Tomorrow we'll wait upon your honour.
One of you, stay my horse at the top of the hill. What? Black Will? For whose purse wait you? Thou wilt be hanged in Kent when all is done.
Not hanged, God save your honour. I'm your beadsman, bound to pray for you.
I think thou ne'er said a prayer in all thy life. One of you give him a crown, and sirrah, leave this kind of life. If thou beest tainted for a penny matter, and come in question, surely thou wilt trust. Come, Master Arden, let's be going together. Your way and mine lies 4 miles together.
And exit that lot, leaving behind Black Will and Shakebag.
The devil break all your necks at 4 miles end. Soons I could kill myself for very anger. His lordship chops me in, even when my dag was levelled at his heart. I would his crown were molten down his throat.
Arden, thou hast wondrous holy luck. Did ever man escape as thou hast done? Well, I'll discharge my pistol at the sky, for by this bullet Arden might not die.
Here enters Greene.
What is he down? Is he dispatched?
Aye, in health towards Feversham to shame us all.
The devil he is! Why, sirs, how escaped he?
When we were ready to shoot, comes my Lord Cheyne to prevent his death.
The Lord of heaven hath preserved him.
Preserved a fig. The Lord Cheyne hath preserved him, and bids him to a feast to his house at Shorlow. But by the way, once more I'll meet with him, and if all the Cheneys in the world say no, I'll have a bullet in his breast tomorrow. Therefore, come, Greene, and let us to Faversham.
Aye, and excuse ourselves to Mistress Arden. Oh, how she'll chafe when she hears of this.
Why, I warrant you she'll think we dare not do it.
Why, then let us go and tell her all the matter, and plat the news to cut him off tomorrow.
Exit. Nobody expects the arrival of Cheyne and his men. That wasn't planned. Does Shakebag actually discharge his gun there? That's why Greene comes on going, oh, have you done it? Have you done it?
Yes.
It seems hinted, but we don't actually have a stage direction there. So I mean, I think we should be, Will and Shakebag, at the moment, apart from the stall holder's bit of bad luck, which, you know, you could say should have stepped out of the way, so far they haven't done anything wrong as professional murderers. You know, it's everything else going wrong that they actually have no control over. So, you know, I think they're just being really unlucky, you know, in their murderiness.
Yeah. We should keep count, because I'm beginning to wonder if Arden has 9 lives.
Well, I'd say I make that 3 explicit attempts in terms of actually going out there and trying to go for him so far. In the street, in his bed, on the way out of town. Aliki, did you have?
There was an attempted poisoning too.
Oh, there was an attempted poisoning. Yes, that was yesterday. So 4 in total, 3 today, 1 yesterday. Absolutely. Yes, thank you for reminding me. I totally forgot the poisoning, yes. Rachael, how could I forget the poisoning?
They should have gone with the poison painting. It seems like it would have been more successful at this point.
But I agree with them. It was a more elaborate plan, more likely to go wrong. Whereas these quite straightforward plans that should be successful have so far failed. Yeah, it's an interesting question of tone as to how those because there is something ridiculous about the fight. I made a note of, once again, Shakebag and Will functioning like vices, in the sense that they get into an argument with themselves and they're fighting with each other, not getting down to the thing, and they say, I'll make sure I'm going to pray to heaven, I'm going to make an oath that I'm going to get you later. And again, this constant thing about oaths and that's running through this. And how easily they're broken, or how excessive they are. Other thoughts? Rachael?
I think this is also like another huge oversight on their part, but Franklin and Arden have been together this entire time, so it seems that he's always around other people anyway, and the plans that they're going for seem to work best if he was alone. But he seems very well liked, that he can just meet people that he knows in the street and go off with them.
If not well liked, then at least definitely known. He is a known figure who's going to think. Yes, absolutely. You know, it's that thing. How do you separate him from his entourage? Well, one of them separates themselves, because he goes, I know he's going to be murdered in a minute. I don't want to watch it happening. You know, Michael clearly wants plausible deniability for anything to do with this. So he's out of the picture there very carefully. And yeah, Franklin is harder to shake off in that sense. Okay, we have one more scene to do this session. We have scene 10. I think, just checking. Yes, it is. So we're back with... Arden is back in the bosom of his loving family. As scene 10, here enters Arden and his wife Alice, Franklin and Michael.
See how the hours, the guardian of heaven's gate, have by their toil removed the darksome clouds, that Saul may well discern the trampled path wherein he wants to guide his golden car. The season fits. Come, Franklin, let's away.
I thought you did pretend some special hunt that made you thus cut short the time of rest.
It was no chase that made me rise so early, but as I told thee yesternight, to go to the Isle of Sheppey, there to dine with my Lord Cheyne, for so his honour late commanded me.
Aye, such kind husbands seldom want excuses. Home is a wild cat to a wandering wit. The time had been, would God it were not past, that honour's title nor a lord's command could once have drawn you from these arms of mine. But my deserts or your desires decay, or both. Yet, if true love may seem desert, I merit still to have thy company.
I pray you, sir, let her go along with us. I'm sure his honour will welcome her, and us the more for bringing her along.
Content, sirrah, saddle your mistress nag.
No, begged favour merits little thanks. If I should go, our house would run away, or else be stolen. Therefore, I'll stay behind.
Nay, see how mistaken you are, I pray thee go.
No, not now.
Then let me leave thee satisfied in this, that time nor place nor person alter me, but that I hold thee dearer than my life.
That will be seen by your quick return.
And that shall be ere night, and if I live, farewell, sweet Alice, we mind to sup with thee.
And exit Alice.
Come, Michael, are our horses ready?
Aye, your horses are ready, but I'm not ready. I've lost my purse with 36 shillings in it, with taking up of my master's nag.
Why, I pray you, let us go before whilst he stays to seek his purse.
Go to, sirrah, see you follow us to the Isle of Sheppey, to my lord Cheyne's, where we mean to dine.
Exeunt Arden and Franklin, remains Michael.
So, fair weather after you, for before you lies Black Will and Shakebag in the Broom Close, too close for you. They'll be your ferryman to Long Home.
Here enters the painter Clarke.
But who is this? The painter? My co-rival that would needs win Mistress Susan?
How now, Michael? How does my mistress and all at home?
Oh, who? Susan Mosbie. She's your mistress too?
Aye. How doth she and all the rest?
All's well, but Susan, she is sick.
Sick? Of what disease?
Of a great fever.
A fear of what?
A great fever.
A fever, God forbid.
Yes, Faith, and of a lording too, as big as yourself.
Oh, Michael, the spleen prickles you. Go to. You carry an eye over Mistress Susan.
Yeah, Faith, to keep her from the painter.
Why more from a painter than from a serving creature like yourself?
Because you painters make but a painting table of a pretty wench and spoil her beauty with blotting.
What mean you by that?
Why, that you painters paint lambs in the lining of wenches' petticoats, and we serving men put horns to them to make them become sheep.
Such another word will cost you a cuff or a knock.
With a dagger made of a pencil, Faith, it is too weak, and therefore thou too weak to win Susan.
Would Susan's love lay upon this stroke?
And then he breaks Michael's head. Here enters Mosbie, Greene and Alice.
I'll lay my life this is for Susan's love. Stayed you behind your master to this end? Have you no other time to bramble in? And now, when serious matters are at hand. Say, Clarke, hast thou done the thing you promised?
Aye, here it is. The very touch is death.
Then this, I hope, if all the rest do fail, will catch Master Arden and make him wise in death that lived a fool. Why should he thrust his sickle in our corn, or what hath he to do with thee, my love, or govern me that am to rule myself, forsooth? For credit's sake, I must leave thee. Nay, he must leave to live, that we may love, may live, may love, for what is life but love, and love shall last as long as life remains, and life shall end before my love depart.
Why, what is love without true constancy? Like to a pillar built of many stones, yet neither with good mortar well compact, nor with cement to fasten in the joints, but that it shakes with every blast of wind, and, being touched, straight falls unto the earth, and buries all his haughty pride in dust. No, let our love be rocks of adamant, which time nor place nor temper can asunder.
Mosbie, leaving protestations now, and let us bethink us what we have to do. Black Will and Shakebag I have placed in the broom, close watching Arden's coming. Let's to them and see what they have done.
And they exit. So we have the setting up as we close this session. We have the setting up of additional plans for murder. So Black Will and Shakebag, they've been placed in some close thicket nearby for Arden to be perhaps waylaid once again. Connection with the ferryman coming by. So there's setups there, but then also we have this delivery from Clarke the painter, who's very touch is death, but who will die by this strange thing? We shall see next time. But yes, once again we have the plotting of things, and some very jarring beginning of that scene. I found it very, very odd. It didn't feel fully explicated in my sense of, Arden's with Alice and they're leaving again. And it's like, when did they arrive? And what the hell is Arden saying at the beginning of the scene? I just sort of wrote down, what strange bollocks is this? It does jar in such a weirdly weird way from some of the stuff that's gone before. The text is dancing around a lot. It's doing all sorts of different jobs at different times, and I still have no doubt that it's entirely massageable in performance. But some interesting things going on, and a fight. Michael's had his head knocked in. We're assuming he's not dead because everyone keeps talking around him. I think they'd be a little more concerned if they had a body on their hands. They do seem to be more, that'll learn you, in their attitude. Thoughts about this scene? Silence falls. The darksome clouds that soul may well desert. Anyway, sorry, Helen. Yes.
Yeah. I haven't read this play before. And my feeling is that none of these murder plots are going to work. But he may have a heart attack and drop dead quite independently of anything they do in the last scene. But apart from that, I just cannot believe that any of these plots are going to actually work.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea for what should happen. Yeah, he should just die, and they all get accused of his murder anyway. And it's all just a coincidence. Eric, did I see you waving?
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's just like we're back to the whole let's murder Arden again with probably with poison or something, and it's kind of we're back to the first scene basically. Everything has been reset, like some button has been pressed and everything is sort of except in the first scene we didn't have the whole Clarke versus Michael not debacle, but fight. Well,
this is the point of hiring too many people and promising them the same thing, and so that when the various murder strands get together, they're sort of going, hang on. Even if they haven't been explicitly expanded to each other, they are rivals in various ways. So there's too many people bouncing around. Stephen.
Yeah, the fight between Clarke and Michael, it's very strange in the light of the rest of the scene. I'm sure there is some kind of filthy joke going on here. To do with painting. I mean, perhaps somebody better informed can say that people's petticoats did have things drawn on them. I have no idea, but horns is a clue and various references to things splashing around. But then he just gets knocked out. He just gets knocked out. So they have this kind of there's this strange kind of constructed metaphor of Michael's to do with painting tables and blotting and painting lambs in petticoats, and then horns get added in. and it's all going swimmingly, and then it's like Monty Python's fish dance. You know, he just gets knocked into the canal, and that's that.
Yeah, well, that's Clarke
And we
for
go
you.
back to the scene.
Yeah, but I really like that. I like that, you know, it's just going, yeah, mine a thing and a thing and so
it's actually what we've always wanted to do with one of these sort of horrible servant types who comes up with these hilarious Elizabethan jokes that we can't get anymore.
Yeah.
Just kind of, no, they didn't find them funny either. They wanted to see this guy knocked out, silence forever.
There is a Laurel and Hardy. I think there's probably lots of Laurel and Hardy moments like this. There's one where they're on the doorstep and they're burbling away at this landlady or whatever, who just stands there and he just burbles away, and she just punches him out. And it comes from nowhere. It's absolutely hilarious. But it's just a utterly random moment that is also really well justified and set up. So, yeah, maybe it is that kind of thing. I'm liking it.
But I mean, both of them have been promised Susan.
Yes.
And they both know that they're rivals. They both think that they are the favoured one.
Mm.
Michael is effectively saying, I have Susan's affection, even if you get her, I will cuckold you.
Mm.
And then Michael, who is, Clarke, who is a man of action in the way that many of the characters in this play aren't, just decks him. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems a more logical response than many responses of people in this play.
Mm. Well, I said I'm not. There are lots of things, but I'm they're slightly quirky. But I'd say I'm still enjoying it, and minor plot points aside, its slight outrageousness is part of I think its effect. Is that's what you want, is the ridiculousness, and if you start drilling too deep into this, you're gonna just find mush, I think. But I could be wrong. Maybe there's more to dig out of this. Rachael, I think, next.
No, also on that point, I think he was saying that not just that Michael was going to, that he would have a physical relationship with her. I think he's also, saying that Clarke would not be having a physical relationship with her, that all you want to do is you want to draw her clothes, and you don't want to take them off, sort of thing. Like, you just want to paint them, and then she's going to grow an old maid while I'm the one doing it with her. And so he just knocked him out.
Mm. Though, if Clarke, as a painter, of course, I would have thought he'd want to protect his hands. I mean, he's not a surgeon or anything, but, punching someone out, unless he's got a stick, and cracks him one with that. Anyway, we may have spent too much time speculating on this point. Final thoughts from the room about this play overall, if you've been here for both sessions, and just a sense of where we are as something to be performed and to do. And we've discussed tone and genre and all sorts of things in passing and in greater detail and lesser detail. Lois, any final thoughts from you?
I'm not sure I do, actually, because almost everything I would want to say depends really on the ending, the relation of what we've been seeing to the end.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Alan, any final thoughts?
I must admit, the more I look at it, the more it looks to me like each scene or small group of scenes are actually a pastiche of something else, and maybe someone who is more learned in the literature of the time would be able to spot it. I have a sneaking suspicion that Franklin, with his interrupted story, that actually has got some resonances with Chaucer, and I think there is some literary spoofery going on right the way through the whole thing. The fact that in the first time we met Will and Shakebag, they were not quite monosyllabic, but they didn't have anything in any extended form. And it looked as if Will was the main player and Shakebag was the bag carrier. This session, they seem to have changed roles and also both got much more extensive speeches. And I have a feeling that these were riffs that were being played either on other authors or on established performances that they'd done. And I think the same maybe applies elsewhere within the play.
I mean, it's. I mean, the problem is again the question of we'll never know, because if we don't have the references, we can't apply them. It also depends on the question of tone as to, you know, that kind of thing is more likely if it's in a comedic vein, and trying to layer comedic references even to something that is in itself has a perfectly sensible plot that functions. So if today in the future you wanted to look at something like Shaun of the Dead, which has all its zombie riffs, and you've never seen a zombie film, you won't know what the spoofs are necessarily. You might go, that seems like it's talking about something else, but you wouldn't necessarily be able to reconstruct it. So in a sense of whether we can do anything with that in terms of going forward is difficult, because we don't really have anything that explicitly seems like it is being spoofed that we can draw on in that sense. Or is being something that's being referenced, even if it's not necessarily an explicit spoof. I don't know what we can do with that. Alan?
The only reference we've had to a tragedy was, in fact, in the intro which you read yesterday, which doesn't form part of the script we've got. And I'm just wondering whether that is, in fact, part of the whole wind-up, and that this is a straight comedy dressed up as a tragedy by that intro.
Well, the problem is, of course, that people are banding genre around left, right, and centre, and we don't know whether that's from the original author/performance auspice, or whether that's just the printer going, I've heard this story is really sad, so it must be a tragedy, mustn't it? Without necessarily having worrying too much about what's the content of the play is. So is this a tragedy? Is this that's a performance question that we do need to unpack, but I don't think the title is actually going to help us there. Lynn, next, final thoughts.
Yeah, I will just respond to the discussion you were just having, and then add a little bit for my final thoughts. Comedy and tragedy are not, at least in this period, tonal designations, they're formal ones. So if a comedy can have a sad tone as long as everything comes out all right in the end, and a tragedy can be comic and farcical if it ends in death. So it's about the plot, it's not about the mood. Okay, so there's my literature nerd thing. And what I've been thinking as we go through this is the kind of pastiche, as it was Alan's word, which I think is a good one. I think this is kind of what you get when you're writing kind of true crime, and it's a famous crime. This incident in Kent actually happened, and it was pretty well rumored about, and so your audience knows how it turns out. So how do you entertain them in the meantime when the outcome is not a matter of a question in the audience's mind? So you have these games between the lovers, you have this sort of physical farce comedy. I mean, so these kind of weird things that seem a little incohesive. That's what happens when you don't have any kind of tension about the outcome of the plot to keep the audience's interest.
Rachael, final thoughts?
I don't know. There's just like these random lines that I think are very colorful and interesting, and also today that we've gotten a lot more a lot more characters have been filled in, and they're bringing more today, and there's something about them. Maybe it's just that we've gotten in deeper and that they've gotten to express themselves more. And there's not as much exposition, but action in this. So there's more of an interesting and engaging flow.
Yes, we've got scene after scene after scene as we bounce from different places, so it's got a sort of different momentum to it. Whereas that first scene had the impression of momentum, but was essentially one place, one thing. In performance, how do we measure the flow? How do we keep the story going? How do we keep the attention going between these various strands? Stephen, any final thoughts?
I think my main thought you've already articulated, Rob, which is I think one of the reasons we are enjoying it, which I think we are, is that we've kind of got this, backlog and background of reading, so that we're able to place things in relation to other things. And I think the challenge for a modern production would be, somebody mentioned in the chat, for example, Ealing comedy would be to give us sort of strong steers in terms of just what is being drawn on at a particular point. I was wondering, trying to work out with Lynn's comment, because we have with history plays, don't we? We have similar kind of constraints, but they go down a very different route, which is perhaps to do with patriotism and the perceived patriotic function of the history play. And this, you could argue this is an experimental genre, at least in terms of the plays that we've got. It's very, very early for true crime, although all tragedy is supposed to be true crime in a sense, isn't it? They are supposed to be based on real stories. And it feels to me a little bit like a sort of commedia scenario, in the sense that we know what kind of scenes we've got to have, but actually what happens in them seems to veer all over the place. So, we've got to have a frustrated murder here. We've got to have a frustrated murder here. We've got to have an argument between the lovers here. The whole thing doesn't seem to join up. It seems to be a kind of glorious collection of sketches. That they've worked out what scenes need to be, but what's actually in the scenes seems to be, I think, it's found its moment, really. I think just at the minute, we're really open to that sort of thing. 50 or 60 years ago, people would be going, no, wait a minute, this just does not hang together, it's not consistent, and we're just along for the ride. And if you could get that over in a production, then I think it would really help it to succeed. That's that feeling that, you've got a bunch of people and they're just kind of, you're playing a single scene, but not to people worrying too much about the overall thing, which is much more a theatre-y thing anyway.
Yeah, I've been thinking about, in terms of practically staging it, you have this interesting opportunity here, because the play itself is already a play about the past. It's already, it's recent history, if not, history. So in terms of when you're staging it as which past does a production choose, can have a fundamental different changing to mood and tone. I'm stepping slightly into performance history vein here, which I will step away from. But yeah, there are interesting decisions that change how you're staging it, because if you set it in period, even when it was in period, they were setting it in the past, if that makes sense. So what perceptions of recent history, how that slightly changes what the play is talking about and doing. Eric, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if there's something I can add that hasn't already been said. I'm weirdly, I'm enjoying it, but I'm like, I don't know, are we gonna have the curse of the final session where someone gets murdered and it's like, well, yeah, that we knew that was gonna happen, so like, it's like a bit of an anticlimax kind of thing. I don't know. I'm curious, because it seems very light for knowing that someone's gonna get murdered at the end. It's like picking up, like we said, sort of, I don't know, true crime or detective fiction, where people are going to get, you start with knowing someone's going to die, but how and why and so on is very, very, depends on the delivery.
Yeah, we haven't touched at all today on the fact that this is a true story. There's actual people died here, and the fact that we're having so much fun. Interesting moral question. Discuss another time. Tamara, you've only been here for this session, so you've been thrown a bit in the deep end. Any final thoughts?
Yes, same as Eric, I think. I don't know what else to add. Everybody's thoughts are much deeper than mine.
We're here for surface thoughts as well. They are often more important.
I mean, all I can get is all I'm seeing at the moment, and I can't get out of it, is Home Alone or Lady Killers or 101 Dalmatians right now. Surface thoughts. There you go.
No, I think they're finding a routine of saying, these are my they're useful things. Helen, any final thoughts?
Yes, I'm going to stay on surface thoughts too. Carry on, Cleo. I think is probably the closest that I can get to it. People constantly bumping into each other at exactly the moment when they're trying to off Caesar, and things keep on going wrong and wrong and wrong. But this was a well-known story. There were ballads, broadsides. Could there have been another more serious play that we don't have?
Entirely possible.
Yeah, I mean
I have not come across a reference to such a thing being known even as a title, but it's not impossible.
Because it does strike me as being, yes, we've had the serious bit, now let's have a bit of fun with it. Because I can't, I mean, I'm told by people who have seen it done seriously that it can be done seriously, but I'm not sure how.
And more importantly, should you?
No. Carry on, Cleo. That's my final thought.
Aliki, infamy, do they all have it in for you?
Yep.
I'm going to go with Carry On, Cleo, although Fargo also comes to mind, the film, not the TV show. There's this... That's it, really. I think, no, actually, one more thing. I think, like the Ealing comedies, the thing that would make or break this is the moments between moments, the reactions, the small kind of human bits of the character. And I would look forward to having a chance to find those.
Yes, and if we haven't really talked about the Ealing comedy element of the thing there is they are comedies, but it's not always big in your face commedia style comedy. The comedy is slightly more muted, and there is a slightly darker edge to it. Most of the time, not all of them. Not all Ealing comedies are equal, that there's an interesting question about that there is a tonal battle perhaps potentially going on in this play that we're not necessarily leaning into too much, because this is just a first look. We're just getting an idea. This is just the surface. This is how we roll. We'll do a second look one day, and a production in the future, and other people will be doing productions as well. In fact, one of the podcasts that got away is I interviewed an American production about their Arden. Sadly, that never got released because it was partly to promote them coming over to the UK to do a show that got cancelled due to the pandemic, and it just felt really depressing releasing it. One day that material may come out and I may finish this sentence that I'm starting now, but I'm going to cut it off now because you can't listen to that because it's still embargoed. All that remains is to thank all these wonderful readers, all the readers for the last year or so, and any of the callbacks I've thrown into this video. All that remains is thank everybody very much. Thank you very much. And goodbye. Bye. Arden must die.